Tonight we're diving into something magical, something familiar but deeper than you've ever heard it before. This is Mapping Magic, a calm and thoughtful journey through the history, the evolution, and the wonder of the wizarding world. If you grew up with Harry Potter, if the books were part of your childhood, or if you're just now discovering the layers beneath the spells, you're in the right place. We'll start with the very first book, A Boy in a Cupboard, and slowly explore how this world was built, how it grew, and how it lives on today. Before we begin, I want to ask you something. Where in the world are you listening from tonight, and what time is it right now for you? I love seeing where everyone is tuning in from, so if you're still awake for just a moment, drop your location and the time in the comments below. It's always so relaxing to read through them later. And before you drift off, go ahead and drop a like on this video. It helps others find their way here too, and it lets me know you're enjoying this cozy space we've built together. No loud noises, no ads in the middle, just soft narration, simple words, and the story behind the story. So take a deep breath, settle in, and let's begin our journey into the world behind the wand. This is Mapping Magic, and it starts now. The first book in the Harry Potter series began quietly. A boy in a cupboard. A world that seemed ordinary. But behind that ordinary world was something hidden. Something magical. J.K. Rowling began the series with Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone in 1997. It introduced readers to a layered world that would soon grow into one of the most influential fantasy universes in literature. The early pages show a mundane setting. Number 4, Privet Drive. The Dursley family. A boy left on a doorstep. There is magic here, but it waits in the background. Letters fly through the air. Owls behave strangely. Readers are pulled forward not by exposition but by curiosity. When Hagrid arrives to collect Harry, the tone changes. The story leaves behind the normal and begins to build the magical. Through Hagrid's explanations, the reader begins to learn how this world works. There are witches and wizards. Hogwarts is a school for them. Harry belongs there. The story uses Harry's eyes as a lens. Because Harry knows nothing about magic, the reader learns alongside him. This is an important part of how the canon begins. It feels real because it is introduced slowly. Each magical detail is explained as part of Harry's discovery. The book creates structure. Hogwarts has houses. Wands choose the wizard. Spells follow rules. The world operates within systems that feel consistent. There is a Ministry of Magic. There are rules for underage magic. There is a banking system run by goblins. Even magical candy has its own set of traditions. Canon begins in these systems. They are not just details. They are part of how the world feels lived in. The magical creatures like trolls and centaurs are not just myth. They have roles and habits. They live in forests or under bridges. They are affected by school policy and by student behavior. The introduction of Voldemort adds another layer. He is not just a villain. He is a dark force from the past. He is feared and remembered. Even the fact that his name causes fear tells us about this world. History matters here. Memory matters. What people believe changes how they act. Albus Dumbledore speaks with calm and gravity. He becomes the voice of wisdom in this world. He is not always present, but his words carry weight. His belief in love and choice frames the moral compass of the series. The book also introduces magical objects that will become key parts of the canon. The Invisibility Cloak. The Mirror of Erised. The Philosopher's Stone itself. Each object is not just a plot device. It is part of a larger logic. Each one deepens the mystery and builds lore. The school year format also helps. The calendar of Hogwarts makes the magical world feel orderly. There are classes and holidays. Exams and punishments. Even detention in the Forbidden Forest teaches readers about risk and responsibility. This regular pattern gives structure to the fantasy. The Sorting Hat is a perfect example of lore that serves multiple purposes. It sorts students into houses. But it also sings songs with history. It shows personality. It adds to the culture of the school. And its choice for Harry introduces early questions about identity and free will. Even the game of Quidditch adds to the canon. It is not just sport. It is history and tradition. It has rules and leagues. It becomes a part of how characters define themselves. For Harry, it is his first sense of belonging. By the end of the book, Harry has learned who he is. A wizard. A student. A friend. The canon has given him a place in a larger story. And the reader now knows that the magical world is vast. There are still mysteries. There are still secrets. The book closes, but the world feels open. The Philosopher's Stone does not give readers every answer. But it does something more powerful. It creates a world with its own logic. A place where magic makes sense. Where every detail has potential. And where stories can grow. This is where the canon begins. Not just with a boy and a scar, but with a story that invites readers to keep asking what comes next. The second book in the series arrived with more confidence. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets was released in 1998. Readers already knew the magical world. But now they would begin to see how deep it could go. The book opens not with excitement but with discomfort. Harry is stuck again at the Dursleys. He is cut off from magic. From friends. From letters. This isolation reminds the reader that the magical world is not always accessible. It must be protected. Hidden. Earned. Dobby appears. A house elf. A new magical creature. Not just a side character but part of a wider structure of magical society. Dobby's warnings set the tone. This year at Hogwarts will be darker. More dangerous. The journey back to school is also different. The barrier to platform 9 3/4 is sealed. Harry and Ron take the flying car. Their arrival at school causes damage and punishment. Already the world is less safe. Less forgiving. Inside the school, the tone continues to shift. Strange messages appear on the walls. Students are attacked. Whispers of a secret chamber begin. The legend of the Chamber of Secrets introduces the idea of Hogwarts as a place with its own past. It is not just a school. It is a character in its own right. With memories. With secrets. The founders of the school are introduced. Godric Gryffindor. Salazar Slytherin. Helga Hufflepuff. Rowena Ravenclaw. Their names are already known from the houses. But now their stories are given weight. Their disagreements still echo in the present. Slytherin wanted to admit only pureblood students. Those from magical families. This belief in blood purity is not just history. It shapes modern prejudices. Canon now stretches backward and forward. It shows how the past shapes the present. The term mudblood enters the series. It is cruel. It stings. It signals that not all wizards are treated equally. Even within the magical world there are lines. Divisions. The idea of magical racism becomes part of the story's moral fabric. The character of Tom Riddle expands the canon further. He is a memory. A preserved part of the past. Yet he moves. Speaks. Influences. His diary shows how magic can trap time. How evil can hide in innocence. Tom Riddle's transformation into Lord Voldemort ties the past to the present. The name is not new. But the person behind it now has a story. He was once a student, a boy with charm and darkness. The canon is no longer about events. It is about people and their paths. The basilisk is another new element. A creature from legend made real. It lives in the school, controlled by riddle. Its stare kills. Its movement is silent. The way it is hidden teaches readers that danger in this world is often beneath the surface. Parseltongue is introduced. The ability to speak to snakes. It is rare, feared, and Harry has it. This creates tension. Is Harry connected to Slytherin? Is he like Riddle? The canon begins to explore identity in more complex ways. Moaning Myrtle adds ghostly lore. She is not just comic relief. Her death is tied to the chamber. Her story is a clue. Hogwarts ghosts now feel more than decorative. They have history, pain, purpose. Gilderoy Lockhart serves a different function. He is a wizard who rewrites truth. His books are lies. His fame is fake. This introduces the idea that canon can be manipulated. That not all stories are honest. That truth in this world can be hidden or sold. The diary is destroyed. The chamber is sealed again. But nothing is the same. Harry has seen a part of Voldemort's past. He has learned that the world he loves has deep cracks. Dobby is freed. With a sock. A small moment. But one that echoes larger themes. Freedom. Agency. Change. House elves are not just servants. They are characters with feelings and power. By the end of Chamber of Secrets, the magical world feels older. More layered. The rules are still there. But the shadows are longer. The stakes are higher. And the past has started to speak. Canon now includes not just places and spells, but bloodlines, tensions, histories. The magic is still wondrous, but it is no longer innocent. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban was released in 1999. It marked a turning point. The tone shifted. The stakes grew. The world of magic became more personal and more haunted by the past. The book begins with a breakout. Sirius Black has escaped from Azkaban, a prison feared even by powerful wizards. This new threat feels different. Voldemort is not the danger this time. It is someone else. Someone unknown. But very close. Dementors are introduced. They guard the prison. They feed on happiness. They bring cold and fear. They are more than monsters. They are metaphors. For depression. For trauma. For emotional weight. Harry's reaction to them is stronger than others. This matters. It tells the reader something deeper about him. About what he carries. For the first time, readers see the Night Bus. A magical vehicle that responds to need. That bends space. That adds whimsical chaos to the canon. Magic is not always clean or elegant. Sometimes it is bumpy and unpredictable. Back at Hogwarts, the mood is different. Tension hangs in the air. There are guards. There is fear. And there is mystery. What did Sirius Black do? Why does everyone fear him? What truth is being kept from Harry? Remus Lupin arrives as the new defense against the dark arts teacher. He brings kindness, wisdom, and secrets. He also brings new creatures to the classroom. Boggets, Grindylows, Kappas, werewolves. The magical world feels larger now. More rooted in old fears and myths. The Marauders map is introduced. A magical object that shows people's locations in real time. It is both powerful and playful. Created by 4 friends. It connects present students to a past generation. It adds depth to the school and to the idea that young wizards can shape the world too. Time begins to bend in this book. Not just in plot, but in theme. The past is not gone. It is active. It shapes the now. Harry learns about his father's friends. About betrayals and sacrifices. About how people change and sometimes do not. Animagi are introduced. Witches and wizards who can turn into animals. It is a complex form of magic. It requires talent and discipline. It adds to the richness of magical ability and its limits. Peter Pettigrew's story is the heart of this shift. He was thought dead, but he was alive. Hidden. And guilty. This twist changes everything. Sirius Black was innocent. The past was misunderstood. Truth is not simple. Memory is not always right. The friendship between James Potter, Sirius Black, Remus Lupin and Peter Pettigrew adds emotional layers to the canon. These were not perfect heroes. They were boys. Flawed. Loyal. Sometimes cruel. Their choices echo in Harry's life. Buckbeak the Hippogriff brings another kind of magic. A creature that demands respect. That reflects dignity and pride. Its story ties to themes of justice and judgment. When Buckbeak is sentenced unfairly, it mirrors the treatment of Sirius. The world is not always fair. Even magical courts can fail. Time travel appears late in the book. Hermione's time turner is used to repeat a day. To save lives. It is tightly controlled. Carefully explained. But it opens a huge door in canon. Magic can affect time. But it must be used with care. The final revelations reshape everything. Sirius is not a villain. He is family. The past is not fixed. It is full of secrets. Full of choices. Dumbledore's words suggest this clearly. That sometimes we must choose between what is right and what is easy. Harry ends the book not with triumph but with knowledge. He knows more about his parents. He knows more about betrayal. He knows the world is complicated. The truth matters. And it is often hidden. Prisoner of Azkaban does not build the world with rules alone. It builds with memory. With emotion. With broken friendships and lost time. The magical world now has scars. And that makes it feel real. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire was released in the year 2000. It marked the moment when the wizarding world began to stretch beyond the walls of Hogwarts. The magical world was no longer just British. It became global. Political. Dangerous. The story opens at the Riddle House. This is new. A Muggle space touched by magic and murder. Voldemort is back. Still weak. But planning. His presence at the start sets a tone of urgency and shadow. The Quidditch World Cup introduces a much larger magical community. Witches and wizards from many countries gather for sport. Tents are charmed to be larger on the inside. Fireworks spell names in the sky. Magic is vibrant. Joyful. Celebratory. But it does not last. Masked wizards attack the campsite. They raise the dark mark in the sky. This act of terror shakes the moment. It reminds readers that magic can be used for hate. That history repeats itself. That fear is still alive. At Hogwarts, the Triwizard Tournament is announced. This ancient competition brings students from other magical schools. Beauxbatons from France. Durmstrang from the north. These schools are not just background. They have culture, style, pride. Madame Maxim and Igor Karkaroff are more than teachers. They are symbols of magical diplomacy, of how traditions differ, of how magic is shaped by geography and values. The Goblet of Fire chooses champions, one from each school. But then it chooses Harry. A fourth name. A mystery. A rule broken. This twist drives the story forward. It creates distrust, jealousy, danger. Each task in the tournament expands the magical canon. The first task uses dragons. Each species has a name, a nature, a behavior. The second task dives into the Black Lake. It introduces merpeople, grindylows, magical breathing spells. The third task is a maze filled with enchantments, creatures, traps. Each test is a window into magical problem solving. Rita Skeeter arrives as a reporter. Her stories twist facts. Her words harm people. She represents a new force in the magical world. The media and the power of narrative. What people believe can be shaped or distorted. Barty Crouch and Ludo Bagman add political depth. One is strict. The other is casual. Both are connected to the Ministry of Magic. Their roles show how complex magical governance is, and how corruption or carelessness can cause harm. The Pensieve is introduced. A magical object that stores memory. It lets others enter past moments. This deepens the canon. It allows truth to be revisited, but also questioned. What is memory? How reliable is it? What happens when it is manipulated? The climax of the book happens in a graveyard. Cedric Diggory is killed. Voldemort returns in full body and strength. Death touches the story directly. The tone darkens. The war is no longer a shadow. It is real. Voldemort's rebirth is ritual magic. Ancient. Dark. It uses blood, bone, flesh. It reminds readers that magic is not only wonder. It can be used for horror. His followers return. The Death Eaters. They wear masks. They serve out of fear, or belief, or both. Harry escapes. Barely. Cedric's body returns with him. The school sees death and disbelief. The Ministry refuses to accept the truth. Denial becomes a form of control. Dumbledore speaks clearly. He will not soften the facts. He warns of what is coming. He refuses to lie. This moment defines him, and defines the story's next phase. The canon now includes magical sports, magical media, magical politics, international schools, history that repeats, and death that cannot be undone. Goblet of Fire is a turning point. The magical world is not just big. It is flawed. It is beautiful. And it is in danger. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix was released in 2003. It is the longest book in the series. It also brings the heaviest weight. Emotionally, politically, personally. The magical world is now at war. Even if only some will admit it. The book opens in heat. Summer. Stillness. Tension. Harry feels cut off again. Letters are brief. News is missing. And danger is near. Dementors appear in a Muggle neighborhood. This breaks all known rules. Magic crosses lines. It no longer respects borders. Harry uses magic to defend himself and his cousin. For this he is punished. The Ministry of Magic sends a letter. He is summoned to a hearing. He is just 15. But the full weight of magical law comes down on him. This hearing reveals more than fear. It shows that magical law is political. Cornelius Fudge, the Minister of Magic, leads the attack. Dumbledore defends Harry. But the strain is visible. The Ministry does not want the truth. It wants control. The Order of the Phoenix is introduced. A secret group that opposes Voldemort. Made of old friends. Teachers. Parents. Fighters. They meet in a hidden house. Number 12 Grimmauld Place. A location full of dust. Secrets. And family ghosts. This house belongs to Sirius Black. It is his childhood home. And it is also a museum of dark beliefs. House elf heads mounted on walls. A tapestry of bloodlines. Echoes of purity and hatred. The magical world now shows its darkest corners. Back at Hogwarts there is change. Dolores Umbridge is appointed by the Ministry. She brings rules. Punishments. Decrees. She wears pink and speaks sweetly. But she uses cruelty and fear. Her presence turns Hogwarts into a controlled state. She censors. Inspects. Silences. Even Dumbledore is pushed aside. The school that once felt magical now feels watched. Harry forms Dumbledore's army. A secret student group. They learn spells. Defense. Courage. This is more than rebellion. It is education. It is resistance. It shows that magic can be taught. But it can also be passed between equals. Occlumency is introduced. A magical method to guard the mind. Snape becomes Harry's teacher. Their relationship turns sharp. Bitter. This training fails. But it teaches readers that the mind is a battleground. That thoughts can be invaded. That truth can be hidden or stolen. Prophecy becomes central. Stored in the Department of Mysteries. A place deep inside the Ministry. Filled with strange objects. Time turners. Brains. Archways. Prophecy is not just a prediction. It is a burden. A secret. It connects Harry and Voldemort. The idea of fate is explored. Was Harry chosen? Or did Voldemort make him the chosen one? The prophecy can be read in more than one way. This opens. Sure. He falls through the veil. A stone archway. No body is recovered. Just silence. Grief deepens. And Harry grows older in a moment. Dumbledore explains the full prophecy. He tells Harry that love still matters. That choices define us. That power is not always strength. The book ends without victory, but with clarity. The Ministry can no longer deny the truth. Voldemort has returned. The war is real. Canon now includes magical government, magical justice, magical surveillance, and magical resistance. It explores how power is used and abused. It asks what happens when truth is inconvenient, and when courage must begin in secret. Order of the Phoenix is about voices. Being heard. Being silenced. And choosing to speak anyway. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince was released in 2005. It is a book of shadows, of secrets long buried, of choices made long ago. The tone is somber, reflective. The world is at war, but much of the battle happens in memory. The story begins outside Hogwarts. The Minister of Magic meets with the Muggle Prime Minister. This moment expands the canon again. The magical and non-magical worlds do connect, but only in times of crisis. This link shows that magic exists alongside ordinary life. Watching, intervening, but always distant. Severus Snape makes a vow, an unbreakable vow, to protect Draco Malfoy, to complete a task if Draco fails. This spell binds promises with death. Magic here is not just symbolic. It is deadly serious. Dumbledore begins to show Harry memories. He uses the pensieve. Together they explore Voldemort's past. Each memory adds a piece, a puzzle, a person. These scenes are not action-packed, but they are essential. They give shape to a legend. They reveal a boy named Tom Riddle. Readers see the orphanage. The young Tom, already clever, already cold. He collects trophies, controls others, fears weakness. Even as a child he seeks power over people. At Hogwarts Tom is gifted, respected, but always apart. He hides his true self. He learns about Horcruxes, dark objects created by splitting the soul through murder. Each Horcrux makes one harder to kill. Voldemort creates many, more than anyone before him. This concept changes canon forever. Death is no longer just an ending. It can be delayed, avoided, at a cost. The soul can be damaged, torn. Magic becomes moral. It has consequences. Slughorn's memory is key, but it is tampered with, altered. Dumbledore needs the real version. Harry gains it not by force, but through trust. He learns to persuade, to earn truth. Meanwhile, Hogwarts carries on. But it is not the same. Danger seeps in. Students are cursed. Walls are breached. Dumbledore's hand is blackened, damaged by a cursed ring, a Horcrux. The Half-Blood Prince is a name in a textbook. Harry uses the notes inside. They improve his potions, teach him spells. But one spell cuts. Sectum Sempra. It wounds deeply. Magic again is power, but also risk. Ginny becomes more central. Her strength, her humor, her connection to Harry grows. Romance enters the story, but it is not the focus. The world outside is too dark, too uncertain. Draco Malfoy struggles. He is no longer just a rival. He is a boy under pressure, tasked with killing Dumbledore. But he cannot do it. This failure is not weakness. It is a kind of salvation. Snape completes the act. He kills Dumbledore. The shock is deep. It changes everything. Was it betrayal? Or a plan? The truth is hidden, not revealed yet. Only actions are seen. The Astronomy Tower becomes a place of loss. Dumbledore's fall is not just physical. It is symbolic. The guide is gone. The war is close. Harry decides to continue, to find the Horcruxes, to finish the task. Hogwarts fades from view. The journey will go beyond school walls. Half-Blood Prince adds weight to canon. It gives Voldemort depth. Not to forgive, but to understand. It shows how magic scars, how love matters, how memory reveals. The war is no longer coming. It has begun. And Harry is no longer a boy. He is a seeker of truth, a bearer of pain, a fighter by choice. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows was released in 2007. It is the final book in the original series. It closes the arc, but it also opens space for deeper meaning. The magical world reaches its breaking point, and then it begins to heal. The book starts without Hogwarts. Harry leaves the Dursleys. The safe places are no longer safe. The Order protects him, but not without cost. Hedwig dies. Mad-Eye Moody falls. Death is sudden, sharp. The war is not looming. It is here. The Ministry falls. The newspapers lie. Fear spreads. Magic becomes controlled. Muggle-born witches and wizards are hunted. A registry is created. Wand rights are removed. This mirrors real histories. Magic becomes political, violent, divisive. The trio runs. They move through woods, forests, fields. They are alone. They carry Horcruxes. These dark objects do not just hide pieces of Voldemort. They poison mood, twist thoughts, prolong suffering. Godric's Hollow is visited. A place of graves, of memory, of false hope. Bathilda Bagshot becomes a snake. History is no longer safe. Even knowledge can be turned against you. The Deathly Hallows appear. 3 objects. A wand. A stone. A cloak. Together they promise mastery over death. This myth changes the story. It offers another path. One of temptation, of legend, of choice. The Elder Wand is powerful. The Resurrection Stone brings ghosts. The Invisibility Cloak offers escape. But Harry chooses none as tools of conquest. He uses them to protect, to let go. Dobby dies saving lives. A free elf, loyal by choice. His grave is marked with simple words. A free elf. His death is small in scale, but vast in emotion. Snape's past is revealed through memory, not words. His love for Lily, his guilt, his promise to Dumbledore, his double life. Snape becomes more than a teacher. He becomes a man of pain and courage, an impossible loyalty. The Battle of Hogwarts is the climax. Students, teachers, creatures, friends, all gather. The school becomes a fortress, a place of final defense. The Room of Requirement gives aid. The ghosts walk. The statues move. Deaths are many. Fred Weasley, Remus Lupin, Nymphadora Tonks, Colin Creevey. The cost is high. Grief floods the story. But courage remains. Harry offers himself. He walks into the forest, ready to die. He carries no weapon, only purpose. This act is not magic. It is love. Pure. Undiluted. He dies, but does not pass on. In a white space that feels like King's Cross, he meets Dumbledore. They speak of choice, of endings, of Voldemort's broken soul. Harry returns. Not as a hero, but as himself. Whole. Willing. Voldemort is defeated. Not by force, but by truth. By sacrifice. By unity. His wand fails him, because it does not truly serve him. It serves Harry, who did not kill for it, but who won it by disarming. After the war, Hogwarts rebuilds. Peace returns, but the scars remain. 19 years later, the world is quieter. Children board the train. The next generation begins. Canon closes with legacy, with names passed on, with memory honored. The story ends, but the world feels alive. Deathly Hallows ties every thread. Myth, magic, memory, morality. It honors what came before, and plants the seed for what might come next. The 7 original books tell a story, but beneath that story is a structure, a rhythm, a pattern of themes and symbols that give the series its deeper power. These hidden layers are not always obvious, but they shape the world. They guide the canon. One of the most consistent themes is choice. Again and again, characters are faced with decisions. Harry chooses to save rather than harm, to trust rather than hide. Even small choices carry weight. Who to believe? Who to forgive? Who to stand beside? This theme is clearest in the Sorting Hat. It offers Harry a path to Slytherin, but he chooses Gryffindor. The Hat respects that. Choice matters more than ability. This idea repeats. With Snape. With Dumbledore. With Draco. What we do defines who we are. Time is another deep thread. Not just clocks or calendars, but memory. History. How the past reaches into the present. Every book connects backward. The Marauders. Tom Riddle. The founders of Hogwarts. Their actions echo. Their secrets resurface. The use of the pensive shows this directly. It is a magical way to see memory, to revisit truth. It allows the reader to walk into the past and to ask questions. What is remembered? What is forgotten? What is true? Love is perhaps the strongest current. It protects. It wounds. It redeems. Lily's sacrifice saves Harry. Snape's love shapes his every act. Molly Weasley's love shields her family. And in the final book, it is love that drives Harry to walk into the forest. Alone. Unarmed. Ready. Symbols guide this world. The lightning scar is not just a mark. It is a bond. A burden. A reminder. The Deathly Hallows form a triangle, each part with power, but together a legend. And yet the real strength lies not in possessing them, but in letting them go. Animals carry meaning. Owls bring news. Cats watch silently. Snakes signal fear or control. Patronuses are expressions of the soul. They show what a witch or wizard holds dear. They are light against darkness. They are memory in motion. Numbers repeat. 7 books. 7 years. 7 players on a Quidditch team. The number holds power in magical lore. It appears in spells. In riddles. In the very structure of the story. The school year cycle is also a pattern. Each book begins in summer, moves to autumn, ends in spring. This rhythm mirrors growth. Each year brings new challenges, new lessons, And slowly Harry changes, grows, learns. Not just magic, but how to be. Dumbledore's role shifts over time. He begins as a guide, a protector. But his flaws are revealed. His past mistakes, his regrets. He becomes more human. This change matters. It shows that wisdom does not mean perfection. That leaders are not beyond error. Snape's arc is perhaps the most complex. He begins in shadow, but ends in sacrifice. His story unfolds in silence, in glances, in guarded words. Only in death does his truth become clear. That he loved, that he protected, that he chose. The books are also full of mirrors. Not just objects, but moments, reflections. Harry and Voldemort, Tom Riddle and the boy who lived. One driven by fear of death, the other shaped by love. Both marked by fate, but defined by choices. The timeline of the series is also carefully kept. Each event builds on the last. Dates are tracked. Birthdays, holidays, history classes. The rise and fall of powers. The magical world ages with the reader. The canon respects time. There are losses. Cedric, Sirius, Dobby, Fred, Lupin, Tonks. Their deaths are not reversed. Magic does not undo grief. It cannot erase it. This gives the world gravity. Pain, reality. Yet joy remains. Laughter in the burrow. Celebrations at feasts. Small victories. Friendships. These moments are not just light touches. They are pillars. They remind readers why the fight matters. Between the lines, the Harry Potter series is about many things. Love and loss. Truth and lies. Power and humility. It builds a magical world. But more than that, it builds a moral world. A place where right and wrong are often tested, but never erased. The canon is not only spells and creatures. It is emotion, history, pattern, and purpose. It lives between the words, in the choices made, in the lessons learned, and in the truths quietly told. Alongside the 7 main novels, a new kind of magic emerged. Not through story, but through scholarship. J.K. Rowling released companion books, each one written as if from within the wizarding world. They were not sequels, but supplements. Texts that expanded the world without changing the central plot. The first was Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, published in 2001. It appeared as a school textbook, supposedly written by Newt Scamander, a magizoologist. The book listed magical creatures, from Acromantulas to unicorns. It gave classifications, habits, habitats, and ministry guidelines. What made the book special was not just the content, but the voice. It read like a real textbook, with margin notes from Harry and Ron, jokes, scribbles, reactions. This gave it life, personality. It felt used. It felt part of the world. Each creature added depth. The Niffler, the Bowtrackle, the Demiguise. These names later appeared in other media, but here they were first. They gave readers a sense of magical biodiversity, a world full of strange and beautiful life. The second companion was Quidditch Through the Ages, also released in 2001. Written under the name Kenilworthy Wisp, it explored the history of the game, its rules, its evolution, teams, fouls, positions, broom technology. This book took a fictional sport and gave it real weight. Readers learned how the snitch came to be, how matches sometimes lasted weeks, how regional styles varied. It made Quidditch feel old, respected, deeply embedded in culture. It also showed how magic and sport combine, how broom enchantments matter, how spells affect gameplay. It gave the magical world its version of stadiums, fans, traditions. The third book came later, The Tales of Beedle the Bard, published in 2008, after the main series ended. This one was different. It was folklore, fairy tales for wizard children, stories like The Fountain of Fair Fortune and the Warlock's Hairy Heart. Dark, whimsical, strange. The most important story was the tale of the three brothers. It introduced the Deathly Hallows, a wand, a stone, a cloak, each tied to death, to power, to loss. This tale was more than fiction. It was canon, central to the final book. Dumbledore's notes followed each story. He commented, interpreted, sometimes mocked the lessons. This added another layer. It showed how stories are read, and how they shape beliefs. Together these companion books deepened the wizarding world. They showed that magic was not just action. It was history. It was education. It was bedtime stories and sports fandom. They also added texture, different tones, different styles. They reminded readers that this world is not just about one boy. It is filled with authors, teachers, athletes, children, each with their own voice. The canon became broader, more believable, because it had textbooks, because it had fairy tales, because it had distractions and passions, just like the real world. These books did not change the core story, but they expanded the walls. They invited readers to live in the world, to study its creatures, to cheer for its teams, to think like its people. They turned fans into citizens, into students, into fellow wizards, not by story alone, but by knowledge. In 2011, the wizarding world stepped into the digital space, not with a game or a movie, but with something new. A website called Pottermore. It was more than a fan portal. It was a source of canon, a place where stories continued, and where readers became part of the magic. Pottermore launched with a promise: to retell the Harry Potter books online, with added features, new writings from J.K. Rowling, and interactive elements. Readers could unlock scenes, collect potion ingredients, cast spells, discover backstory. One of the first major features was the sorting hat experience. For the first time, fans could be sorted into houses by answering questions. The quiz felt personal. It offered subtle choices. It matched tone and values. Once sorted, your house became your home on the site. Along with houses came wand assignment, based on a quiz shaped by Ollivander's principles. Wands were matched to core, wood, length, flexibility. Each wand had lore, background, personality. This added depth to a detail often overlooked. Fans learned their wand, their house, their story. The site also revealed new schools. Beyond Hogwarts, there was Ilvermorny in North America, Mahutokoro in Japan, Wagadu in Africa, Castellabruxo in Brazil. These schools were not explored in the main books. But here they had names, locations, histories. This global expansion shifted the canon. Magic was not just British. It was worldwide. It had cultural differences, educational styles, regional magical creatures. This opened the wizarding world to new voices, new places, new possibilities. Character backstories appeared too, often in long form, written directly by Rowling. Some offered new detail. McGonagall's past, her love, her family, her choice to teach, Lupin's childhood, his transformation, his fears. These essays deepened familiar faces. Other entries introduced new ideas. The history of the Potter family, how they made their fortune, the invention of the invisibility cloak, the life of Umbridge, her ambitions, her cruelty, her bloodline. These writings were not just fun. They added complexity. Pottermore also touched on wand lore, the science and emotion behind wand making, the properties of various woods, the nature of magical cores, the ethics of wand ownership. It showed that magic tools had identity, preference, memory. Some of these revelations changed fan understanding. They clarified points left vague. They corrected timelines. But they also raised new questions. Some entries contradicted old hints. Some added layers that not all readers accepted. The tone of Pottermore was different. It was more formal, more encyclopedic, less narrative. This made it feel like a companion text. Not a story, but a resource, a place for lore. Over time, Pottermore changed. It shifted toward news and merchandise. The interactive features faded. The sorting hat quiz survived. So did the wand quiz. But the deep essays became harder to access. Eventually the site was rebranded. It became wizardingworld.com, a broader platform. Less focused on exploration, more on promotion. Some fans missed the old structure. Others adapted. Still, the legacy of Pottermore is clear. It marked a shift. A moment when canon left the books. When it lived online. When readers became participants. It showed that the wizarding world could grow in new ways. Through quizzes. Through data. Through author essays. It invited fans not just to read, but to live inside the world. To be sorted. To cast spells. To learn their past. Pottermore made canon personal, interactive, and in doing so it changed how fans saw the story. Not just as something to watch, but something to enter. The Harry Potter books came to life on screen starting in 2001. The first film adapted Philosopher's Stone. The last film came 10 years later. It split Deathly Hallows into 2 parts. Over this decade, the films brought the wizarding world to a global audience. They showed magic in motion. But they also changed how the canon was experienced. Each movie was shaped by choices. What to keep? What to cut? What to change? These decisions were guided by time, budget, story flow, and sometimes by interpretation. The early films stayed close to the books. Directed by Chris Columbus, the first two movies followed the text with detail. They introduced the look of the world. The stone hallways of Hogwarts. The flickering candlelit Great Hall. The moving staircases. The house colors. The robes. The wands. Casting played a major role in defining the canon. Daniel Radcliffe. Emma Watson. Rupert Grint. Their faces became Harry, Hermione, Ron, Alan Rickman as Snape, Maggie Smith as McGonagall, Richard Harris then Michael Gambon as Dumbledore. These portrayals shaped how fans saw the characters. As the films progressed, the tone darkened. Alfonso Cuarón directed the third movie. His style was more fluid, more atmospheric. The world felt less polished, more real. Robes became everyday cloth. Well, for the fourth, David Yates for the final four. The style became more cinematic, more dramatic, less playful. This matched the growing stakes. The films aged with their audience. Each adaptation made cuts. Entire subplots vanished. The House Elf campaign led by Hermione was gone. The backstory of the Marauders was shortened. Many memories from Half-Blood Prince were missing. The complexities of wand lore were simplified. These choices kept the story moving, but they also narrowed it. Some characters lost depth. Ginny Weasley in the films became quiet. In the book she was fierce, bold, funny. Cho Chang's story was trimmed. Percy Weasley's arc vanished. Kreacher's redemption was reduced. Each cut left a gap in the world building. Other parts were changed. The burning of the Burrow was not in the books, but it appeared in the sixth film. A visual moment to show danger. Some scenes were rearranged. Some dialogue was invented. These changes sparked debate among fans. What was canon? The book? The movie? Or both? The final battle at Hogwarts was visually powerful. The spells. The walls falling. The giants. The fire. But the scene also altered key events. The duel between Harry and Voldemort happened in private in the book. In the film it became a public showdown. A cinematic moment, but not a faithful one. Despite changes, the films gave the world a shared visual language. The music by John Williams. The costumes. The creatures. The spells. Even the way magic sounded. All became part of how fans imagined the story. The Great Hall is now fixed in stone and glass. The Forbidden Forest has a look. The Ministry has its towering walls. These images became definitive, even for readers who met the books first. The films also expanded access. They brought the story to people who might never read the books. They inspired new fans, young and old, across languages and cultures. But with reach came power. Many viewers know only the movies. For them, the film is the canon. This creates tension. Book fans may point out missing layers, but film fans see a world complete in its own way. The truth is, both forms shape canon. The books hold the depth, the lore, the thoughts. The films bring light and shadow, sound and sight. Together they create a fuller picture. Not perfect, but powerful. The 8 films did not just show the story. They helped define it. They made magic visible. And they gave the Wizarding World its face. In 2016, the Wizarding World returned to the screen. Not through an adaptation, but through a prequel. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them introduced a new time. A new cast. A new era of magic. It also marked the beginning of a new phase in canon. One not rooted in the books, but shaped by screenwriting and retroactive world building. The story followed Newt Scamander, the fictional author of the Magical Creatures textbook. The first film took place in New York City in 1926. This alone expanded the canon. The American magical world had never been shown. Now it had laws, buildings, histories. The Magical Congress of the United States, MACUSA, replaced the British Ministry. Spells were the same, but customs were different. The word Muggle became Nomai. The separation between magical and non-magical people was stricter. Wands had to be registered. Magical creatures were feared, not studied. Newt was an odd hero. Quiet, awkward, kind. He did not fight with power, but with care. He protected beasts, collected them, released them. His suitcase became a world within a world. A sanctuary, a museum, a moving piece of lore. The film showed new creatures, Nifflers, Boatrackles, Occamys, Thunderbird, Demiguise. Each one had a role, not just visually, but narratively. They affected how the world worked. They shaped outcomes. They had agency. But the story was not just about beasts. It was also about secrets. An obscurus, a dark magical force caused by repressing magic. It was destructive, unstable. It introduced a new kind of magical danger. Psychological, emotional, rooted in fear. The character of Credence Barebone embodied this. Abused, isolated. He became a source of destruction, a victim, and a mystery. His role grew across the series, and with it came confusion. The second film, The Crimes of Grindelwald, expanded the timeline. It introduced Gellert Grindelwald, a dark wizard who preceded Voldemort. Charismatic, cold, visionary. He sought power not for cruelty, but for order, for magical dominance over Muggles. He did not hide. He spoke in public. He gained followers. Dumbledore returned to the story. Younger, thoughtful, haunted. His connection to Grindelwald was emotional, deep, implied in the original series, but more fully explored here. The blood pact between them was introduced, a magical agreement that prevented Dumbledore from fighting Grindelwald. This added a new layer to their history. But it also raised questions about timelines, about magical rules, about motivation. The films added locations: Paris, Nurmengard, the Lestrange family tree. They dug into pureblood politics, magical genealogy, ancient relics. But not all of it aligned cleanly with what readers knew. Some fans questioned the new canon. Minerva McGonagall appeared in a scene set before her birth. Nagini was revealed as a woman, a cursed maledictus. This redefinition shifted how fans saw the snake from the books. Some welcomed the expansion. Others saw it as forced. The final film in the trilogy so far, The Secrets of Dumbledore, tried to connect all threads. Grindelwald's rise, Dumbledore's family, Credence's identity. But answers remained cloudy. Was Credence really a Dumbledore? How did timelines align? The clarity was missing. Visually, the films were rich. Costumes, sets, spells, beasts, all added to the magic. But the story often felt fragmented, trying to balance lore with action, history with spectacle. Still, the films contributed to canon. They showed how magic operated in the past, how politics worked, how different magical communities viewed law and justice. They gave new names, new terms, new questions. They also revealed something else: that canon is not fixed. It evolves, sometimes smoothly, sometimes with friction. The Fantastic Beasts series added depth, but also challenged old structures. Fans responded in many ways. Some embraced the new material. Others chose to keep it at a distance. The films became part of the ongoing conversation. What counts as canon? Who decides? And how do stories change when their world grows backward? The beasts remain central, not just in plot, but in theme. They remind us that the magical world is wide, full of mystery, full of care. Even when the story stumbles, the creatures keep it alive. In 2016, the Wizarding World returned. Not in a book or a film, but on stage. Harry Potter and the Cursed Child debuted in London. It was billed as the official 8th story, set 19 years after the final battle. It followed the next generation, but it also reached back into the past. The play was written by Jack Thorne, based on a story by J.K. Rowling. John Tiffany directed. The production used magic not through special effects, but through lighting, movement, stagecraft. Wands flicked, capes swirled, time turned. The main character was not Harry, but his son, Albus Severus Potter, sorted into Slytherin. He struggled with his legacy, his name, his father, his place in the world. His closest friend was Scorpius Malfoy, son of Draco, rumored to be Voldemort's child. A rumor that cast a long shadow. Together they steal a time turner. They try to undo the death of Cedric Diggory. They believe it was unfair, that it broke something. Their mission is well meant, but misguided. The past pushes back. Each change in time creates a new reality. In one future, Voldemort wins. Hogwarts is ruled by darkness. In another, Ron and Hermione are estranged, their love lost. In another, Harry is dead, or cruel. The world becomes unfamiliar, dangerous, wrong. At the heart of the story is Delphi, a new character. She claims to be the daughter of Voldemort and Bellatrix. Her goal is to bring her father back. She manipulates events. She uses Albus and Scorpius. She tries to rewrite destiny. In the final scenes, Delphi is stopped. The past is preserved. The future is safe. But questions remain. About lineage. About time. About truth. The play touched on big themes: fatherhood, legacy, friendship, regret. It asked what it means to carry a name, to live in the shadow of a war, to be seen only through the lens of someone else's story. Visually, the play was praised. Its magic felt real. The stage became a portal. The train, the lake, the forest, the ministry, all came alive. Through sound, light, movement. But the story stirred debate. Some fans embraced it. Others rejected it. Critics pointed to contradictions. The idea of Voldemort having a child felt out of place. The use of time travel seemed messy, risky, canon-breaking. The personalities of known characters felt different. Ron became comic. Harry became harsh. Hermione became distant. The tone shifted. The world felt tilted. Some fans saw this as growth. Others as disconnection. The script was published. Readers judged the words without the visuals, without the energy of performance. Some found the dialogue flat. The pacing rushed. The story strange. Still, the play was official. It bore the stamp of approval. It was part of the canon, at least in form. But not all fans agreed. Cursed Child became a symbol of canon conflict. What makes something real in a story world? Is it the author's name? The label? The format? Or the feeling? The fit? The fans? The truth may lie in between. The play added new characters, new lore, new possibilities. It explored emotion more than world building. It used time not just to twist events, but to test bonds. It did not undo the past, but it made the future more complicated, more human. For some, the story lives. For others, it stands apart. But either way, it added a layer, a path not expected, a door not fully closed. The books ended, but the world did not. After the release of Deathly Hallows, J.K. Rowling continued to speak. In interviews, on social media, through Pottermore. Her voice remained powerful, but its influence became more complex. Early on, her words were embraced. She answered fan questions, clarified timelines, shared details that were not in the books. The names of other Hogwarts students, the fates of minor characters, the professions of Harry and his friends. She explained that Harry became an Auror, later the head of the department, that Hermione worked at the Ministry, that Ron helped George run the joke shop. These facts were not in the novels, but they were accepted, because they came from the author. Other statements added new insight. Dumbledore was gay. This was revealed after the books ended. It was not mentioned in the text, but Rowling said it had always been part of his story. Some fans celebrated this. Others asked why it was not made clearer. The moment marked a shift, a space between intention and expression. Over time, the space widened. Rowling spoke more. On Twitter, in essays, in interviews. Her voice carried weight, but also caused friction. Some fans began to question how much authority her words should hold. She offered explanations for plot choices. Some felt satisfying. Others did not. She said that Ron and Hermione might not have worked as a couple, that they were written for plot, not for compatibility. This contradicted the romantic arc in the books. Some readers felt it weakened the story's emotional truth. Her Pottermore essays expanded canon, but also created contradictions. The timeline of McGonagall's life did not align with her appearance in the prequel films. The age of certain characters raised questions. The introduction of new schools felt rushed. Light on depth. The tension grew. What was canon? The books? The site? The tweets? The play? The movies? As the world expanded, the lines blurred. Then the controversy deepened. Rowling began making statements about gender, about identity, about lore and biology. These were not about magic. but about real life. They caused pain, division, anger. Many fans felt betrayed. The author of their childhood spoke words that did not reflect the values they found in the story. Some readers distanced themselves. Others redefined their relationship with the world. They chose to separate the books from the author, to hold on to what the story meant to them, not what the creator later said. This created a new space, a divided canon, not in content, but in spirit. Can a world belong to readers, even when the author remains active and controversial? Some fans said yes. They found meaning in the characters, the themes, the choices, not in the later commentary. Others felt the world was damaged, changed by what followed. The author's role in canon became uncertain. In earlier times, the writer was the final voice. But in shared worlds that span decades, the question grows. Can canon evolve without its creator? Can a story outgrow its source? Rowling's voice is still present. In new projects, in responses, but it no longer holds the same unity. The story she created lives on, but the relationship between author and audience has changed. The books remain. The characters still move readers. The magic still feels alive. But the context around them is different. More complicated. More personal. Canon is now shaped not only by what is written, but by how it is received, and by who is willing to carry it forward. While official stories built the wizarding world, it was the fans who kept it alive. In the years after the final book was published, the community grew. It created, imagined, expanded. The result was something not quite canon, but not separate either. A shared body of ideas known as fanon. Fanon stands beside canon. It includes headcanons, fan fiction, fan art, theories, alternate timelines. It grows through forums, social media, fan sites, zines, podcasts, videos. It is unofficial, but deeply felt. Many readers wanted more. What happened after the final battle? How did characters heal? What did the next generation do? These questions found answers in stories. Thousands of them. Written by fans. For fans. Some focused on romance. Hermione and Draco. Harry and Luna. Ginny and Pansy. Ships that never sailed in the books, but thrived in fandom. These stories were not always about changing facts. Often they were about exploring possibilities. What if? Why not? Other stories filled gaps. What did the Marauders' school years look like? How did Regulus Black discover the truth about Voldemort? What was Lily like as a friend? These stories gave voice to characters who died young, or were only seen in glimpses. Fan fiction also rewrote the world. Some stories imagined a Hogwarts in space, or with a different founder, or with no magic at all. Some placed the characters in new worlds. Some changed their identities, genders, cultures. These changes were not errors. They were expressions, reflections of readers who wanted to see themselves inside the magic. Headcanons became a form of shared belief. Neville Longbottom as a skilled herbologist. Luna Lovegood as autistic. Harry as a trauma survivor. These views were not in the text, but felt true to many. They helped readers understand, connect, heal. Fan art brought the world to life visually. in styles ranging from realism to animation. Characters were reimagined, races recast, settings reshaped. The Weasleys with darker skin, Hermione with natural curls, Hogwarts with modern architecture. The freedom of fan art opened doors that the films had closed. Some fans built full systems, new spells, new houses, new creatures, magical theory, history, language. They wrote encyclopedias, designed games, created fan films. Their work was detailed, thoughtful, passionate. This creativity often formed communities, places of safety, expression, friendship. People found connection through shared love, shared grief, shared hope. Not all fanon was embraced equally. Some fans debated what felt right, what fit, what changed too much. But the point was never agreement. It was freedom, the right to imagine. At times fanon influenced canon. A small idea would appear in an official product. A name, a joke, a visual nod. The line between fan and creator blurred. Some fan creators became professional writers, illustrators, designers. They brought their vision into the official world. In this way the wizarding world became folklore, a shared tale shaped by many, passed down, retold, reimagined, not fixed, but living. Fanon is not just decoration. It is dialogue, a response, a reinterpretation. It says this story matters. This story lives in me. This story is not over. For many fans the books were a beginning. But the world they loved was the one they helped create. The stories began on the page. They moved to the screen. Then they stepped into the real world. Theme parks, studio tours, exhibitions. These places did not just show the wizarding world. They let fans walk inside it, touch it, smell it, live it. In 2010 the wizarding world of Harry Potter opened at Universal Orlando. It was more than a ride. It was a world. Hogsmeade was recreated with snow-covered rooftops. Honeyduke sold chocolate frogs. Zonkos had joke items. Butterbeer flowed in mugs. Ollivander's one shop let guests experience one selection. The land had rides. But the rides were part of the story. Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey took visitors through Hogwarts, past the talking portraits, into classrooms, out over the grounds. The castle loomed. Spells were cast. Dementors attacked. Later expansions added Diagon Alley, a working replica, with shops, signs, sounds. Nocturne Alley curved into shadow. Gringotts housed a bank ride with goblins and dragons. A fire-breathing dragon sat on top. Escape from Gringotts became a blend of coaster and story. A chase through vaults and curses. Guests could ride the Hogwarts Express from one land to the other. The train windows showed scenes from the countryside. Sometimes Death Eaters, sometimes Dementors. Even the ride between areas became part of the experience. Once became interactive. Sensors in shop windows responded to certain movements. Cast a spell. A box opens. A light turns on. A call writes by itself. Magic became something visitors could do. Similar parks opened in Hollywood, Japan, Beijing. Each had variations, local details, Different layouts, but all aim to make the world real. Not just visible, but physical. The parks followed canon. The shops sold in-world items. The food matched the books. The architecture copied the films. The details mattered. Every brick, every sign, every sound. But parks are also adaptations. They leave some things out. They simplify. Not every alley. Not every spell. The world becomes walkable, but not complete. The studio tour in London took a different approach. Opened in 2012, it was a behind-the-scenes look. Costumes, sets, props, animatronics. Visitors walked the Great Hall, saw Dumbledore's office, stepped onto the night bus, sat in the flying car. The tour focused on craft, how the world was built, how wands were made, how spells were filmed. It showed the illusion, but also deepened respect. The world was not just imagined. It was created by hundreds of artists, designers, builders. Traveling exhibitions brought props to cities around the world. They placed robes in glass, wands on velvet. But still the magic was there. Seeing Luna's shoes, Hagrid's coat, the Marauder's map. These objects carried story, even when still. The parks and exhib. Any fans, the parks were their first contact with the world. Not through books, not through screens, but through walking, breathing, being. They touched the stones, smelled the shops, heard the sorting hat. This experience changed the relationship to the story. It became personal, embodied, a memory. It also raised questions. If a wand chooses a visitor, does that wand mean something? Is it canon? Does the story they live in the park count? These experiences are not always about story, but about feeling, presence, belonging. For many, the canon is not just what is written, but what is felt, what is lived. The parks do not tell new stories, but they offer new ways to connect, to imagine, to remember. In the wizarding world, you can hold your wand, drink your butterbeer, look up at the towers of Hogwarts, and for a moment magic feels real. Video games brought a different kind of magic, one that could be held in your hands, that could be shaped by your actions. The wizarding world first entered games alongside the films. Movie tie-ins for consoles and PC. Early games followed the plot, solved puzzles, fought trolls. They were basic, but they let players enter the story. Over time, the games evolved. They offered more freedom. Players could explore the castle, cast spells, attend classes. The magic became interactive, still limited by plot, but growing. Then came Hogwarts Legacy, released in 2023. It changed everything. This was not a tie-in, not a retelling. It was a new story, set in the 1800s, long before Harry, before Voldemort. A different time, but the same world. Players created a character, chose their house, their appearance, their wand. They entered Hogwarts as a fifth-year student. Already behind. Already special. The game was open world. You could fly across the countryside, walk through Hogsmeade, explore caves, battle poachers. The map was large, alive, full of secrets. You attended classes, brewed potions, studied plants, raised beasts. Magic felt like a skill, not just a button. The story involved ancient magic, hidden power, goblins rising in rebellion. A darker current ran beneath the surface. But the player shaped the pace. The choices. This raised new questions about canon. Was this history official? Were these characters part of the timeline? Did the game expand the story? Or just borrow the world? The developers worked with Warner Brothers. The details were close. The houses, the spells, the architecture. But the main characters were new. The story stood alone. Fans debated. Some felt it was canon. Some called it separate. But the experience left an impression. Players remembered their common room, their owl, their favorite spell. Magic Awakened was different. A mobile and PC game. Card-based battles, but set after the original books. Players entered Hogwarts as first years. They dueled, attended dances, wrote notes, made friends. The style was whimsical, stylized, but the world was rich, full of lore, mentions of past events, cameos from known characters, ghosts of the past, hints of the future. Other games offered smaller windows. Wizards Unite was a mobile AR game. It blended the real world with magic. But it closed quickly. The story was complex. The gameplay repetitive. Older games still held power. Lego Harry Potter games retold the books with humor. Blocky characters. Silent comedy. But with great care. They respected the story while playing with it. Each game created a layer, a version of the world. Some close to canon, some creative, some forgettable, some beloved. Games let fans do what the books and films could not. Choose, act, live, walk the halls, pick the spells, save the day. The line between player and character blurred. For many, the story of their Hogwarts year was real, even if it lived only in pixels. Games asked a new question. If you live the story, does it become part of the world? Does it become part of you? In a world built from imagination, games offered a new kind of magic, one where the wand was in your hand, and the path was your own. In 2023, a new project was announced. A television series based on the Harry Potter books. A complete reboot. 1 season per book. New cast. New vision. It was early news. No trailers. No scripts. Just a plan. But the reaction was immediate. Some fans were excited. The original films had left things out. Now there was time to explore. More dialogue. More scenes. More depth. Others were cautious. The books were already adapted. Was a new version needed? The show promised fidelity. Each season would follow a book. Closely. Respectfully. But also with new energy. A longer format meant slower storytelling. Richer development. Characters who had once been cut might return. Events once skipped might now unfold. Casting remained unknown. But the intent was clear. This was not a sequel. Not a spin-off. It was a full retelling. A second take on the same story. This raised questions about canon. Which version would be official? Could both live side by side? Would contradictions matter? Some fans viewed this as an opportunity, a chance to reflect changing times, to cast more diversely, to show new angles, to update the world while honoring its roots. Others felt wary. The story was finished. It belonged to a moment, to a generation. Rebooting it risked repetition, or worse, dilution. The show is still in development. Its tone, style, direction, all remain to be seen. But the idea signals something important. That the Wizarding World is not closing. It is reopening. In new forms. This shift is not limited to the series. Stage adaptations, audio experiences, immersive exhibitions, all continue to grow. The story lives not just in books, but in screens, rooms, apps, games. Canon becomes more fluid. A version of Hogwarts on stage, another in a game, another in a show. Each adds a shade, a sound, a feel. The future may include new stories, not just reboots, but expansions. Tales of other schools, other eras, other heroes. The Marauders, the Founders, the next generation. Fans have long asked for these stories. Now the media is catching up. But with each new project comes the challenge. To respect what was. To grow without breaking. Technology plays a role. Virtual reality. Augmented reality. AI companions. These tools let fans enter the story more deeply. Choose paths. Build spells. Shape outcomes. The Wizarding World may become less about watching, more about doing. Less about reading, more about living. But even as it expands, the core remains. A boy in a cupboard. A letter in the post. A train at 11. The new show will retell it. But the heart must remain. Magic is not just spectacle. It is meaning. The next chapter of the Wizarding World is unwritten. But it is coming. And how it is received may reshape what canon means. As the Wizarding World grew, so did its complexity. New books. New films. Games. Essays. Interviews. Each added a layer. Each brought magic. But also contradictions. These were not always mistakes. Some were changes. Shifts. Retcons. They happened slowly. Then visibly. Then repeatedly. Timelines moved. Characters appeared where they should not have been. Professor McGonagall taught at Hogwarts years before she was born. Dates of key battles and events were changed in companion texts. Stories once set in stone became flexible. Other contradictions came from adaptations. In the books, the final duel between Harry and Voldemort happens in quiet. In the films, it becomes loud. Dramatic. Different. Who decides which is true? The Cursed Child added more. The existence of Delphi. The nature of time travel. Alternate realities. Fans debated her origin. Her plausibility. Some accepted it. Others rejected it. The Fantastic Beasts films introduced more tension. Dumbledore's timeline shifted. Nagini's backstory changed. The structure of magical society in the past seemed at odds with earlier lore. Magic felt different. Less rule-bound. Some contradictions were small. A spell doing more than it used to. A one behaving outside known rules. A portrait moving in new ways. Others cut deeper. The nature of prophecies. The role of bloodlines. The structure of the ministry. The author's own statement sometimes added to the confusion. Tweets gave character facts not in the books. Pottermore essays redefined histories. Fans struggled to keep track. Was everything still part of one world? Or had it become many worlds loosely joined? These tensions are not unique to this story. All large worlds face them. But the Wizarding World was once tightly constructed. With rules. Structure. Now it felt more fluid. Sometimes too much. Readers asked, can canon be rewritten? If the author changes her mind, does that change the text? If a film director alters a scene, does that change its meaning? Some chose to ignore contradictions. They stayed with the books. Others embraced it all. Accepted each piece as a fragment. A perspective. Still others built personal canons. What felt true to them? The archive grew heavy. Full of footnotes. Corrections. Disputes. Fans built wikis to track it. Diagrams to map it. Guides to explain it. But something else happened too. The messiness brought questions. Who owns the story? Who gets to shape it? Who decides what matters? In a way, the contradictions revealed a truth. That stories live through telling. Through memory. Through retelling. That even in a magical world, history can shift. This does not mean anything goes. Consistency still matters. But so does meaning. A contradiction may challenge logic. But it can also reflect change. Growth. New understanding. Canon is not only about facts. It is about feeling. Continuity of spirit. Harmony of message. Even when the details move. The Wizarding World is no longer one book. Or one mind. It is a library. Full of voices. Some loud. Some quiet. Some in agreement. Some in tension. Conflicts in the archive remind us that stories are living things. And that even magic must face the question. What remains? And what evolves? At the start there was one voice. One name. J.K. Rowling. She created the Wizarding World. Shaped every rule. Every character. Every twist. Her word was final. Her intent was canon. But over time that role changed. In the early years her guidance was welcomed. She answered questions. Gave interviews. Wrote companion texts. Fans looked to her for clarification. For details that had not made it into the books. She seemed to live inside the world. As its chronicler. Its guardian. As new projects appeared, her role became broader. She was a screenwriter for Fantastic Beasts. A producer. A commentator. She shaped tone. Direction. Character arcs. She approved plays. Helped design theme park experiences. The Wizarding World bore her stamp at every level. But something shifted. Her presence no longer felt distant. It became constant. Statements on social media. Reactions to fan theories. Criticisms of new interpretations. She remained engaged. But not always in ways that fans welcomed. Her comments on social issues, particularly gender identity, caused deep division. These were not about plot. Or spells. Or characters. They were about real people. Real lives. Many fans felt hurt. Some walked away. Others stayed, but with sorrow. This changed how readers saw the books. Themes of acceptance, of identity, of love, once central, now seen in a different light. Some asked, can we separate the story from its creator? The idea of death of the author became common. A belief that once a story is released, it belongs to readers. That meaning is made not just by writing, but by reading. Rowling's control was questioned. Her authority over canon reduced by fan choice. Other fans defended her. They valued her voice, her clarity, her right to speak. The community fractured, not in its love of the world, but in its trust in its creator. Her writing continued, but its reception changed. The weight of her words now carried tension. What once expanded the world now sometimes narrowed it. The studio partnerships moved carefully. Public statements shifted focus. From author to brand. From creator to team. The Wizarding World label became more neutral. More separate. This does not erase her role. She remains the origin. The architect. The one who began the journey. But the relationship has evolved. The author is no longer above the world. She is beside it. And sometimes in conflict with it. For some fans this brings pain. For others freedom. They choose what to carry. What to leave behind. What to reshape. The books remain. But the space around them has changed. Canon is still influenced by Rowling, but no longer entirely defined by her. It now lives in many forms. Through many hands. On many screens. The Wizarding World is no longer a single voice. It is a chorus. Sometimes in harmony. Sometimes in debate. And the author, once the sole light in the forest, is now one torch among many. The Wizarding World began with a single boy. A white boy. From England. His friends were like him. His world was familiar. Magical. But still narrow. As the book spread across the globe, fans saw themselves in the story. Even when they were not in the pages. For years readers filled the gaps. They imagined characters with their skin. Their history. Their voice. Fan art reimagined Hogwarts as a place of many cultures. Fan fiction gave new names. New faces. New loves. This was not rejection. It was recognition. An effort to make the magic broader. In the early books there were few signs of diversity. Dean Thomas was black. Parvati and Padma Patil were South Asian. Cho Chang was East Asian. But their roles were small. Their depth limited. They were named, but rarely explored. Representation of gender and sexuality was more complex. Dumbledore's sexuality was revealed after the books ended. Not on the page. This sparked praise. And critique. Many wanted to see this part of him in the text. In action. In love. Not just in memory. Fans created their own versions. A black Hermione. A trans Harry. A non-binary Tonks. These interpretations were not mistakes. They were mirrors. Ways to see the story through different light. Some pushed for more. For new books. For new characters. For explicit stories of difference. But official works moved slowly. Carefully. Often defensively. The Cursed Child helped shift some perception. Its casting of a black actress as Hermione on stage challenged visual assumptions. It opened doors. But also sparked debate. Was this casting canon? or just performance. For many it was enough. For others it was a beginning. The Fantastic Beasts series introduced more characters of color. Lita Lestrange, Yusuf Kama, Nagini. But their stories were often tragic, brief, or underdeveloped. Representation was present, but not always meaningful. Fans noticed. They spoke. They organized. Essays, panels, threads. They shared how the story had helped them, and how it had failed them. This dual truth became central, that the world gave joy, but also left many outside the castle gates. Magic should be for everyone. That belief guided fan movements. They created inclusive houses, queer sorting quizzes, cultural reimaginings of magical schools. Hogwarts became a shared idea, not a fixed place. Fan conventions held panels on race and magic, on disability and spells, on gender and transformation. These conversations shaped how readers saw the books, not as finished, but as foundations. The publishers began to respond. Slowly. New covers showed different faces. Companion books highlighted more voices. But fans remained cautious. They had built their space. They wanted respect, not just acknowledgement. For many readers, the story lives most deeply in what it allowed them to see. Themselves. Their questions. Their courage. Even if those things were found between the lines. Magic in the margins is still magic. Still powerful. Still real. It reminds us that stories grow not just from what is written, but from how they are read, and who reads them. In the end, the Wizarding world is not one story, but many, woven together by those who needed it, claimed it, changed it, made it theirs. Stories are not just told. They are remembered, passed on, retold. The Harry Potter series is more than a set of books. It has become a myth for a generation. A story of growing up, of finding courage, of facing fear, and of choosing love over power. Readers who first met Harry as children are now adults. Many share the books with their children, or reread them with new eyes. The world feels both familiar and strange. The pages unchanged. The reader changed. This creates a legacy. A shared language. A symbol system. The scar. The cloak. The platform. The spell. Each word carries more than meaning. It carries memory, emotion, belonging. Fans mark time through the story. The day Harry was born. The date of the Battle of Hogwarts. The anniversary of a book's release. These become milestones. Not in real life, but in the life of the story. Quotes are repeated. Themes are held close. Until the very end. Happiness can be found. The ones that love us never really leave us. These phrases travel across screens, across tattoos, across gravestones. Some treat the series as sacred. Not with worship, but with reverence. They return to it for comfort, for strength, for connection. It becomes a guidebook, a map through change. The myth of Harry Potter is not just about the boy. It is about the world. A place where pain can be named. Where friendship matters. Where choices shape who we are. These lessons do not fade. They echo. With time the story shifts. New readers bring new meaning. New questions. Old scenes gain new relevance. The Weasleys' poverty. Hermione's activism. Dumbledore's secrets. What once felt light now feels layered. The legacy is not just in the text, but in the community. In the letters written to Rowling. In the fan sites built. In the fan art drawn. In the songs sung. In the names given to children. To pets. To places. Some have left the story behind. Others carry it quietly. Others speak of it loudly. Each relationship is different. But the memory is shared. The canon becomes a kind of folklore. Not just created, but kept. Not just told, but treasured. The world grows through telling and remembering. This myth lives not because it is perfect, but because it matters. Because it met people at the right time. Because it offered magic when the world did not. Its future is uncertain. New projects may add or distract, but the legacy endures. In the hearts of those who felt it. Who found themselves in it. Who grew with it. Harry's story may end on a page, but its life continues in memory. In myth. In the legacy that only a living world can leave behind. Canon is a word that holds weight. It suggests authority, truth, officialness. But in a world as large as the wizarding world, it is not always simple. What counts? What is real? What can change? Who decides? At first, canon was clear. The 7 books, written by one author, released in order. With a full arc, readers trusted what they read. The story followed rules. Events built upon each other. The world felt consistent. Then came expansion. Companion books. Interviews. Essays. Films. Stage plays. Games. Each added something. But not always in the same way. Some fans accepted all official content as canon. Others separated. Books only. Films as interpretation. Games as side stories. Plays as alternate timelines. This created layers. Personal hierarchies of belief. The author's role was central. For a long time, J.K. Rowling's words settled questions. Then her statements grew more complex. Morpus. Abortive teams. Canon becomes distributed. Decisions are made by committees. Directors. Writers. Game developers. Theme park designers. Sometimes canon contradicts itself. A character appears out of time. A fact changes. A rule bends. This forces readers to choose. Accept the change. Ignore it. Reconcile it. Or reject it. The debate goes deeper. Is canon about what happens? Or about what feels true? Is it about fact? Or theme? Or emotion? Some argue for tight canon. One version. One history. Clean and clear. Others prefer loose canon. A set of core truths. With flexible borders. The Star Wars universe faced similar questions. So did Marvel. So did Tolkien's legacy. Large stories demand interpretation. They resist fixed borders. The wizarding world is no longer just a story. It is a world. And in worlds, people bring their own truths. Their own experiences. Their own rules. Fanon complicates the debate. Headcanons. Alternate pairings. Diverse portrayals. These are not official. But they are meaningful. They shape how readers see the world, how they live in it. Canon can feel like a boundary, a gate, but also a tool, a foundation, a shared map. Not always followed, but always known. When fans debate canon, they are really asking something deeper. What matters? What is worth keeping? What makes the world whole? The canon debate will not end. It will shift. With each new work, each new voice. But the conversation itself is a sign of life, of care, of investment. In the end, canon is not just what is written. It is what is remembered, what is argued, what is loved. The Wizarding World began as a single story. One boy, one prophecy, one war. But it grew. It became a shared universe, a living world, not just told by one voice, but by many. This kind of storytelling is no longer rare. It is a growing model. Shared universes are stories told across formats: books, films, games, parks, shows. Each part connects, builds, responds. They do not always agree, but they form a whole. Loose, flexible, alive. The Marvel Universe is one example. So is Star Wars. So is Tolkien's Legendarium. These worlds stretch across time and place. Some parts are old, others new. Some are canon, some are legend. The borders shift, but the core remains. The Wizarding World fits this pattern. It began tightly held, but became something more. With each new story, the world changed, deepened, reached. This model invites both creativity and complexity. It allows stories to grow, but also requires care. A balance between honoring the past and making space for new voices. Living worlds are not static. They respond to culture, to audience, to need. They reflect the moment, even when set in fantasy. This can cause tension. Fans may feel protective, worried that change will break what they love. But change can also reveal, expand, revive. In shared universes, the idea of the single author fades. Storytelling becomes a collaboration. Writers, directors, designers, readers, players, all shape the experience. Some fans become creators. They write licensed works, develop games, shape park attractions. The line between audience and author grows thin. This is part of what makes living worlds powerful. They are not finished. They invite return, exploration, rewriting, not to erase the past, but to add to it. The Wizarding World shows both the promise and the challenge. It has built new corners, new timelines, new forms. But it has also stumbled, faced criticism, seen fracture. Still it lives. In fan art, in podcasts, in essays, in costumes, in discussions. Not because of perfect planning, but because of deep connection. Living worlds hold many truths, many voices, not all in harmony, but all part of the song. They allow magic to remain, even when the story ends. What began as one boy's journey has become a world shared by millions. And that world continues to move, to shift, to grow. The Wizarding World is not just about spells. or wands, or houses. It is about stories, told together, lived together. The story of Harry Potter began with a whisper, a letter, a cupboard. It became a book, then a series, then a world. Along the way it changed, grew, stretched beyond pages, beyond screens, into lives, into culture. Canon was once a clear map, a set of facts, a path drawn by the author. But now it is something more. It is a conversation, a collaboration, a living thing. The original 7 books remain at the center. Their language, their rhythm, their structure. They taught readers how magic worked, how it felt, what it meant. They gave rules, law, emotion, and they gave a home. From that home many paths grew. Companion texts expanded knowledge. Films added images. Games added choice. Stage plays asked new questions. Theme parks let fans walk the streets of Diagon Alley. Pottermore let them be sorted. Essays revealed hidden stories. Fans filled the gaps. Reimagined characters. Rebuilt timelines. Some editions aligned. Others clashed. The archive became layered, complex, sometimes contradictory. The story held together, but not always neatly. Rowling's voice changed too. Once trusted as final, then challenged, then divided. Her statements shaped canon, but also raised new tensions. Some fans stepped back. Others stayed. Many held to the world while questioning its maker. Through all this the world endured. Because it mattered. It offered magic, but also meaning. A space for grief, for growth, for dreaming. Canon now lives in many forms. The books, the visuals, the sounds, the memories, the interpretations. It is no longer about control, but about connection. To map magic is not to fix it in place. It is to trace its movement, its echo, its reach. Every fan who reads, who writes, who builds, leaves a mark. The wizarding world is not finished. It is unfolding. Slowly, loudly, quietly, through new shows, through old pages, through every whisper of a spell spoken again. In the end, canon is not just what is told. It is what is remembered, what is lived, what is passed on. And like all magic, it changes with the one who holds it. And that brings us to the end of Mapping Magic. If you're still here and still awake, thank you for joining me on this journey. Over these chapters we explored the heart of the wizarding world from the very first time Harry opened that letter to the layers of canon that formed over years through books and films, plays and games, fan fiction and theme parks. We've walked through memory, through myth, through debate, through legacy. We talked about the characters, the conflicts, the creatures and the community that keeps the story alive even now, long after the final page. Whether you were listening for the story, the insight, or just the quiet, I hope it brought you peace, a little nostalgia, and maybe even a new way of seeing a world you thought you already knew. If this helped you fall asleep or just gave you something comforting to rest beside before you close your eyes, please consider subscribing to the channel. There are more audiobooks here, more quiet stories, more deep dives, more things to calm your mind and gently guide you into rest. If you want more thoughtful journeys like this, if you enjoy magic, memory and stories that linger softly in the mind, you're always welcome here. Drop a comment and let me know which part of the book stayed with you, or just say hi and where you're listening from. I love hearing from all of you. And if you haven't already, tap that like button. It helps more sleepy souls find their way to this peaceful space. Until next time, sleep well, dream gently, and remember the story lives on.